We're going to be using Photopea.com. This is our online version of Photoshop, and what we're going to do to start this animation is go to File and New. Once we've gone to File and New, we're going to use the social media selection here, and we're going to choose to use the YouTube cover, which is towards the bottom here. You'll notice that the size of this is 2560 pixels by 1440 in pixels and a DPI of 72. We're going to pump that up to 150, and then we're going to hit Create. Right now we have it as a white background. You can see it there on my screen, and later we will change that. First thing you're going to do is view and fit the area. At the top, then you can see your background. Here what we're going to do first is add a new layer by going down to the New Layer button at the bottom right corner of the Layers panel. Right here, I'm circling it. Click it. Then once that comes up, we are going to double click it to rename it. We're going to do _A _A_, just like that. _A_. And then you can put whatever you're going to be drawing. For the example today, I'm going to do an eye. So on this first layer now, what you're going to do is go over to your toolbar, select your brush tool, then go up to the top in your options for your brush, choose a brush that works. I'm going to see what 15 looks like on my screen right now. That looks pretty good. I'm going to keep it like that. 15. I'm going to keep the blending mode here at the top to normal, opacity to 100, flow to 100, and I'm going to start to draw. So I'm going to do just a quick example, if you would, of an eye. This could be a cartoon eye. You can make a choice about how you want yours to look. All right, just like that, looks good. And then what I'm going to do is begin. Now you could begin the process in any which way. You could start. I'm going to start this one really with the eyeball being open first and then beginning to close. Okay, so I'm going to keep that as my first eyeball. The next step after you've drawn your initial drawing on this first layer is you're going to take that layer now, you're going to right click on the layer and you're going to duplicate the layer. So you can see here I have _A_I copy. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to change that from copy to 2 just so we have some things in sort of order here. Now what I want to do on this second one is I want to change the look of it. I want to close the eyeball up a little bit. So in yours, you're going to make an adjustment, a change of some kind in that second frame or layer. It's a layer, but we're going to turn them into frames later as we create a GIF or a GIF file from it. So what I want to do is, you see I've copied the layer like I just told you, and I renamed it with the 2. All right, I'm going to hide it for a moment, go down to the original one, bring down the original one on the opacity to about a 20. You can see it on my screen. It got grayed out because I brought it down to 21. So anywhere in that range is fine. I'm going to click back on the number 2 layer, I'm sorry, turn it on, and now what I must do is erase and then redraw. So I'm going to take the eraser tool on my toolbar here. The eraser has sizes just like a brush at the top. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start to get rid of some of these lines. So what I'm going to do actually, go to my eraser. There's my eraser tool. Make sure you have the eraser selected. And I'm going to start to get rid of some lines here. Now you can see the gray one is underneath because the layer underneath it is still on. You can leave certain parts if you need. You can get rid of other parts. It's really up to you how much you want to change it for each layer, which is going to turn into a frame later. Now, of course, I could zoom into this so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, that looks good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my brush now. Back to my brush. Keep the same size brush and begin to draw. Now, this brush looks a little too big. You can see that's too large. So I'm going to bring down the size that it was before. I believe it was a 15 before it was like this. So what I want to do is I'm going to start to close up the eye a bit. All right, I'm going to keep the eyeball pretty much in the same spot. You can adjust it a little bit on each one, that's okay. Like I could move this little shine just a little bit so it looks like the eyeball is moving perhaps. All right, and then I'm going to complete that same step again. So what do? I take this top layer, number 2, I duplicate it. When I duplicate it, I double click and I change the name of it to I3. At this point, what I'm going to do is hide this one, the original, go to the second one, bring the second one down to the 21 like I did last time. Now I click on number 3 because that's the one I'm going to adjust and change. So I go to my eraser tool, I go onto this, and once again, I get rid of the parts I want to get rid of. All right, back to my brush. This time it's going to close up almost to the middle, connect it back to the same spot. This time I could kind of lift the eye maybe a little bit. The pupil of the eye, you know. All right. Then I'm going to repeat that process until the eye closes. So I take the top layer, I'm going to hide this one, take the top layer, duplicate it, double click, call it 4, go back to this one, bring this down to 21, put it here, use the eraser tool again. So it's the same steps repeated over and over and over until you get it right. What can start to happen here actually is that can stay. The line of the eyelid underneath can stay, and now I can, you know, I'm drawing like a cartoon, so I can make it happen any way I want. So I'm going to get rid of this now. I could have done it simultaneously with the bottom and top closing at the same time. I could do it individually. It's totally up to you. That's the beauty of animation. You could make things happen the way you want them to happen. Right. Okay, so I'm following the lines underneath, that's why they're there for me. Okay, one more time. Right click, duplicate layer, double click, pull this one 5, back to this one, hide this one, go to number 4, bring it down to 21. Go to 5 now, use the eraser tool, and at this point, I can pretty much get rid of all of it. I can close the eye up completely if I would like. Now, when you do yours, you can add a lot more detail. I could have added eyelashes, for example. Sorry about that. And anything else to the eye to make it more detailed, more realistic. But for the purpose of the video, I'm keeping it, you know, rather simple here. All right, that looks good. Back to the brush tool. Take the brush tool. And what I'm going to do now is just sort of close it up. Maybe I'll make a little tiny gap. Pretty much closed up. All right, just like that. Looks good. Okay, the next step that we're going to do is going to show up in the next video, which is going to be coloring and then turning it into a GIF file.